we are doing our first outside wrap up of the year. Happy March, everybody. These are the books that I have read in February. Now, I was going to take notes and be really thoughtful about how I reviewed each of these, but we're just going to let's start with the first one. Was a carryover from January, and that is Monkshood, a medieval whodunit. Now, this is the third book in this series. I thought to start with the third book because I figured that the characters would be established, the writing would be established. Clearly, this author knows what they're doing because it's the third book now. Generally, mysteries are read like self-containing capsules, but can be read as a whole. Completely adored how this was written. It reminds me of how much more densely that prose was written, and this packs a punch. It is a very short book, but the detail to the prose is incredible. This is following Cadfael. I think it's just Cadfael. He is a medieval monk. I think Wales is in this current town where the rich guy, what's his name? Gervais. Okay, Gervais. He's going to bequeath his big property, he owns a lot of property, to the monks, and there's some contention from his male heirs about who is getting the land, and they're a little bit upset that he's giving the land away to the monks. And then Gervais ends up murdered by a poison called Monkshood. I adored this mystery. It was slow, but it was still gripping. I would definitely read some more. I have been told that there is a TV show that was made from this, so maybe I'll check that out as well. This was a 3.5 out of 5. The next two that I read were BC books. So in my Canadian jar, I drew British Columbia, and I decided to listen to Dark Roads. This particular book ended up being a lot darker. I should have picked up on the title. A lot darker than I was expecting. She says it is based off of The Highway of Tears, but it doesn't pull from anything from The Highway of Tears. But when you are reading it, if you are British Columbian, you know exactly that she's pulling from The Highway of Tears. There's a stretch of road in northern BC between Prince George and I want to say Vanderhoof or Fort St. James. There have been a number of Indigenous women who have gone missing in the area along that highway. There is not much in the way of public transportation or taxis or things that these women can use to get them to safe places. And so what ends up happening is they end up getting preyed upon because they're vulnerable. And it's an absolute tragedy. Nothing has been done of it. In this book, the author chooses to give us a satisfying ending and a feeling like some redemption has happened and some sort of justice. It doesn't change anything to reality, but let's talk about the book in itself. We are following two characters. One character, she lives up north. Her father has just passed away, and she's not forced to, but she's living with Vaughn and his wife that I'm forgetting her name. And she doesn't really like it. She knows she's going to be 18 in a few months. So she decides she's going to just run away and live in the woods, which she does. She finds out that Vaughn is kind of an icky dude. He is a police officer, which adds an extra level of ick to the whole thing. He's very protective and almost dominatingly so. It's not good. He's a pretty good villain, I think, for the book. And then we have Beth. Beth. Beth, it has traveled to this northern community. They've called themselves Cold Creek. It's not a real place, but it's very much small town northern BC. She comes up because her sister has been murdered and she is trying to find out what happened. She doesn't know. She's trying to find closure. This book, the prologue and the epilogue are full 5 stars. Chevy Stevens put a lot of work into the book ending of this book. My only gripe with it, it is a very slow paced book. I really liked it. I wanted to sink into this, and she does a very good job of creating the atmosphere. I grew up in a small town called Quesnel, which is just about an hour south of Prince George. And this small town is like maybe 2-3 hours north of Prince George, northwest. I am familiar with the area, so I quite enjoyed the way that Chevy Stevens wrote about northern BC. I gave this a 4 out of 5, and it is, the bulk of the book is a 3, but because of the bookends being so good and the way that she encapsulated that feeling of northern BC, I feel like it bumped it up to a 4-star. The next BC book that I read was called Glory by Gillian Wigmore. This surprised me. It is a short little book, and speaking of short little books that pack a punch, wow. I did not expect to enjoy this one as much as I did. This also takes place in northern BC. This takes place in Fort St. James. Now, I have been to Fort St. James. It is absolutely lovely. I think she did a pretty good job, again, just like Chevy Stevens, of encapsulating that northern BC feel. The feeling of both isolation and this need to cling to each other as neighbors. Our main character, actually, you know what? Argued. We see one character, Glory, through the eyes of many characters. We never get a POV from her, but we get told about her from all these other characters. And I really enjoyed that approach. Our first narrative is a woman and her husband have decided to move, pack up everything. She's just had a baby. They're packing it all up. He's going to go and live in his grandfather's cabin. They are from the city. They are from Vancouver. So they are completely out of their league. The husband's like, I'll get a job at the mill. And the mom's like, great, I'll like hang out with the baby. Turns out, hanging out with a baby in a small cabin in a town that's isolated and you don't really know anybody is kind of a really tough decision. Not well thought out. She has a bit of a struggle. The thing that I really attached to was all of the feelings and of what she experienced is exactly what I went through. I really appreciated the author's exploration of first-time motherhood, and you think you're doing terribly and you want to just like go back to your own self, but you can't because now you're in a new place and you're so isolated. There was a lot for me to grab onto. Glory, the character, title of the book, she is this sort of enigma. Everybody knows her, but nobody knows her. She's a singer. She's got this like beautiful smoky voice. She sings at a local bar, but she's also rough and volatile and warm and caring, and she's just this complex woman. We get this sort of view of how it's so hard to get out of that small town viewpoint living. You want to leave and go to the city because you think the city's going to be good for you, but really it just ends up being stuck. I really appreciated what this book did for people that live in rural towns. This one surprised me. It was a 4-star so easily. And the last book that I read, I even did a whole vlog on it. It was my Fat Fantasy vlog. You can find it here. So if you already read that one, you're going to know exactly what I'm going to say about this one. But I read Between Two Fires, and it was exactly and not exactly what I wanted. Like, it was just... It was amazing. 5 stars. The easiest 5 stars that I'm going to give this year. This is probably my favorite book of the year already. And it's only February. That's what happened last year. I found Death of the Author was basically one of my favorite books of the year. And I read it in February. So hopefully it's not downhill from here. But man, oh man. Okay. How do we approach this book? So it is the 1300s. We are following a knight, a priest, and a girl who's kind of an enigma. She might be an angel. We're not sure. We are following them after, sort of on the tail end of the Black Death. The general feeling in France, this is set in France, the general feeling is that God has abandoned humanity and demons are basically taking over the world. There are demons aplenty in this, and there are also angels. So while this is a very bleak book, it is also a very hopeful book. The cycles of life and humanity, and when seeing humanity at its worst, with also glimpses of humanity at its best. There are fantastic hallucinations. There are, this could be a demon, this could be an angel, question your reality kind of passages. I adored how this was written. There were flashbacks to each of the characters. We go to each town. Each town is corrupted by some sort of sin of some, like, it's just all, I could not put it down. I read this thing, what, in like a week? Which for me, in my old life without 3 kids, this would have been like a 2-day, 1-day type of a book. 5 stars. You want to hear more about what I have to say, you can go check out my blog. If you are looking for something like this, or you're looking to see what it's like, I've said it's like the Red Knight, but with fewer characters. The Red Knight is like 30 characters and super duper complex with massive narratives, but also looks at demons and eldritch horror and really gray kind of characters. The knight in this one and the knight in this one are basically the same kind of rough and tumble, needing redemption type of dudes that I just will eat up 100%. Other book I would recommend, of course, Richard Swan. So he does like a fantasy horror, which basically this is a fantasy horror as well. If you liked this one, you're gonna like this one. Likewise and so forth. I'm not gonna go into that one. I always talk about that one. That one comes up all the time. Anyway, super happy that I found this. I'm hoping that I'm not peaking too early in 2026, but that's where we're at. I tried a whole bunch of other books, but I couldn't get into them, so I just DNF'd them. I have no time for nonsense this year, so out you go. My name is Karen. I'm the book Libronaut. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. I just realized both of these are medieval. So I have like a medieval / northern BC kind of a month. That was great.